Hey, this is Typix. You're listening to Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 138 coming to you live, pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, January 14th, 2019. The time is 8:38 p.m. Central Standard Time. I am one of your hosts for this journey into esports. Hello, my name is Tim. Alongside me today, we are a man down. Brett is having some internet issues, so thoughts and prayers out to him. But Anuj is back. Hello, Anuj.
What's up? We lose one, gain another, you know?
That's right. That's okay. You weren't here last week, so now it's all even.
Next man up, baby.
You can go from there. This is going to be the best episode ever. I know I say that every episode, but I mean it this time. We have, let me pull up the run sheet here. The Katowice Minor. There's not a whole lot of esports going on right now. I won't lie to our listener. It's been a pretty boring 2 months. It's like this every winter in esports if you're new to the scene. But it's starting to ramp up a little bit. We got the Katowice Minor coming, so let's see us go. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also going to talk about developers' involvement in their own esports scene. Kind of where does that line, where should the line be drawn, really, is what we're discussing. We have a few examples to touch on there. And that's pretty much it. Go ahead and follow us on our social media at The Center Ring. You can hit us up on Discord as well. Our link is there. Also our website, tcr.gg. If you're listening through iTunes or anything like that, be sure to stop by, leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. That's the only way the show can really improve on itself. And, who doesn't want to improve? Who doesn't want to improve? I think I hit everything there.
I didn't think we had any room for improvement, but that's breaking news to me.
There's always room for improvement, sir. Always. Before we get into the developers and their involvement in their esports scene, I do want to bring up one thing. And I'm going to be sniffling, so if you might see me, if you're on Twitch, we do stream on Twitch, by the way. So if you're watching and you see me like reach over to hit the, man, it's just like within the last hour. It must have been something I ate for dinner, but I got the sniffles. Before we get into the talk, though, I did want to backtrack a little bit from last week's episode. Nuge, you weren't here, but we talked about the involvement of the female in esports. You know, the whole Ellie situation dropped down with Overwatch, and I know you're familiar with that.
That was pretty crazy. Yep.
Yeah, just insane how that all turned down, and it sparked a lot of different discussions from a lot of different angles, right? Well, we discussed that, and, I went back and listened to it. I don't think I made my point very clear. I made it sound like women don't get harassed while playing video games or in esports, right? And that's not really what my point was. That's not really how I feel. So I just wanted to quickly backstep, correct myself, and maybe make more sense of my opinion. And that is, and you can feel free to give yours since you weren't here last week, Anuj. I understand women get harassed while getting into anything, right? Whether it be video games, esports, trying to play competitively or just casually. I understand that they get harassed. And I understand that maybe there should be attention brought to that. My point is, and this is what I was trying to say last week, but I just didn't really get it out there well enough, in my opinion, is that in video games, in competitive settings, everyone gets harassed. And I don't think maybe necessarily if it gets you clicks, if it gets you listens, the clickbait, oh, look at women in esports, right, are getting attacked, whatever. You do you. I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think it's you're a girl, so I'm going to attack you. I think we just live in an environment with video games where we attack the low-hanging fruit. If you notice they're a chick, you're going to bring it up in your smack talk. If you notice they have a stutter in their voice, you're going to bring it up in your smack talk. If you notice maybe they sound ethnic, you're probably going to bring that up in your smack talk. And I'm not saying it's right. You know, maybe as a culture of gaming, that is something that we should really address, right? You can use women as your launching off point, but in reality, it's not just women that have to deal with struggles. You know, even our buddy TJ, he's a 31-year-old man. He does sound a little young though. His voice, he's just he's not as fortunate, right? He's got a lighter voice, let's say it that way. And that gets brought up all the time. When he plays a game and kind of gets into a little smack talking dispute. It will always get brought up. So I guess that's my point, is that yes,
I see what you're saying.
Gaming is very toxic. Gaming is very toxic, and if you want to use your platform as women, that's okay. But my platform it's not just women.
Yeah, so like I'll kind of build off of that point because I agree with what you're saying, but I would expand on it a little bit more from my point of view. Harassment is 100% on both sides, but I do think it tends to cross the line more when it comes to maybe talking to a female. And I think that's the bigger issue when it comes to, or making some fun of somebody that has a stutter, or making somebody that has an accent. People are more willing to cross the line now with what they say than you're not going to do that in face-to-face competition. You're not going to say that to people when you're right next to them. But because we're online and that's just the world we live in, unfortunately, the line gets crossed really easily. And, I think the bullying happens in all shapes and forms. And that's just ultimately what it is, right? If you're picking on the weaker player, or picking on somebody for being a girl, or picking on somebody for whatever. Yeah. But again, I think smack talk is 100% appropriate, whether it be it to a girl or a guy, right? Like, you should be able to talk smack in video games. That's part of the fun, especially if you're winning, like that's what you do. But there's a line that gets crossed often. And that's what I think is getting blown up here. People just take it, what we call it with a lot of my friends, taking it to the abyss, right? Like, oof, you really just took it there.
Yeah,
like,
everyone knows
fun.
the line.
Yeah,
everyone knows the line. And
like,
believe me, I feel like our group of friends do a really good job of not taking it there.
Because we have girls in our groups, we have people of ethnicity, including myself, but we have various ones,
different
sexualities.
We have a gay friend. I don't know what the word to say.
different sexualities, ethnicities. We have
there
girls
are all
in our group.
walks of life in our group and in our Discord, right? So that being said, if you want a group of people to come chill with, our Discord is very open to it, right? I don't think any of us care at all. Now, that being said, just know that we've been friends for a very long time. So if we say something, it's mainly because I've known my friends since I was 12 and I'm now 28. So I can get away with a little bit more. But I digress. I think that's the best way to put it. Are females discriminated against? Yes, of course. Like we just said, everyone is, though, right? Every little blooper that you could have about you that someone can tell by just hearing your voice, it's going to be discriminated against. Is that a reason to say that women have a harder time getting into a competitive scene? That I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Maybe I should touch on that too, because that's again, I didn't get a chance to talk about that. But yeah, I think it is tougher for them, just like it is, it was tough for women to be able to vote. It was tough for African Americans to have the same rights as white people. Like, there are things that make it more complicated when there's not a lot of people doing it. Yeah. And so I think there's just a disparity in the number of players, right? Like, there was this report that y'all probably talked about, there's 50% of players or female players 40%, whatever it was, right? But I want to know in a competitive setting, take out X number of games that really don't apply to esports. In esports, that number is probably pretty heavily one-sided. So I think that's where, I think it is tougher for women to get onto the big stage, but it's because there's really just like fewer of them playing.
There's just not as many.
Yeah.
It's a difficult topic. It's a difficult discussion to have because you have so many people just trying to get the clickbait title, right? You have so many people talking about the wrong narrative the wrong way. And I said it last week, I would love to have a discussion of like, some of the well-known female personalities or players across esports and really hear from them or hear from other main people that maybe have witnessed this firsthand. Because honestly, I haven't. I think a lot of it is just online trolls, that are just doing it to, I don't know, to see their name in a chat or for whatever reason. They're hiding behind the screen name, right? They're hiding behind that. I'm going to try saying the word anonymity. Is that right? Close enough? I'm a professional broadcaster, right? So and you get like people who like on the Washington Post. Whoa, sounded Canadian there. Washington Post, like writing about it, and it's kind of like, okay, but you don't really know the scene. You're just kind of taking it from hearsay, and it's really
just
difficult.
Making it a discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, but again, our opinion's coming from the side of 3 middle-aged men.
That's right.
So people got to keep that in mind. And
we said the same thing last week.
Yeah, we haven't experienced this to that level. I've experienced a different kind of hatred towards me. If somebody sees me, especially if they go to my Steam profile and, all my stuff is public. I'm not hiding behind who I am. So they can go to my Twitter profile, see that I'm somebody, it happens mid-game, dude. All of a sudden they'll talk about the center ring, or they'll bring up something about me being like, you Indian, all these other words come out, and it's like, oh, people are willing to
you looked at my profile.
People are willing to hate on anybody, and it's just when they cross the line, maybe it does happen to women more than men, but we should get their opinions too. They just don't count as much as ours. Kidding. Jokes, relax. No, but yeah.
We like to joke.
But
that this all segues now into our next discussion, which is how much should a developer be involved in their esports scene? And this comes from a discussion or a news story, I should say, from, man, at this point, it's got to be almost like a month ago. And I was honestly going to save this for our Overwatch League preview, but there's nothing going on. So
here we are.
We're going to call it in early to talk about. But this is coming down from when Blizzard announced that in the upcoming Overwatch League, and this might be for all Blizzard games, but the article was the one I read specifically talking about Overwatch League, is that in order to partake in Twitch chat, you have to register your Battle.net, your Blizzard account, with your Twitch account, and then that way it's linked to your account and Twitch chat and everything, and they can link, okay, Pirate Mushroom on Twitter is P-Shroom on Battle.net. And this sparked a lot of discussion. People still don't really know why. I mean, you always had drops, right? But that was never linked still to your, I guess, chat, right? Blizzard hasn't came out and said, we're doing this because if you are being racist, if you're being toxic, we'll ban you. They haven't said if they're doing it just for studies, statistic reasons, nothing. They pretty much just said, we're doing it this year. And if you want to talk in chat, this is what you have to do. And like I said, a lot of people got upset about it. And that's kind of where I wanted to have this discussion. And I think it plays really well with, the discussion we just had about people on the internet can take it to that next level because there is no repercussions, right? They can say whatever they want to say and say their account gets banned on Twitch. Whatever. I'll just go make another junk email and make another junk account and get right back to saying it. Last year, if you remember, in Overwatch League, there were issues in Twitch chat with the Tryhard7 being known for a racist emoji and everything there. So I'm kind of curious, Anuj, with your opinion then, since you had the courage to join me, unlike Brett, today to discuss this topic, because we all know Brett gets nervous with social topics.
So on this particular instance with Blizzard, it's easy for them to spin this because they can associate it to drops, right? They can be like, yeah, we want you to link your account anyway. So they're going to know who you are, whether it's related to Twitch chat or not. Your account has to be linked to Steam to get CSGO drops. It has to be linked to Blizzard to get Blizzard drops. So I have a feeling they can probably already somehow tie your chat log to it because they're tied to one another, right? So they could spin it that way. I am personally okay with the level of involvement that you see from companies like Blizzard. Do I want them to micromanage everything? No, but is it better than the other end where Valve has like zero involvement with CSGO? Like, is that what I would prefer with my game? I don't want to go that way either, because with Counter-Strike, what's the best part is like Valve's involvement with the major, and the major being this big grand event, but Overwatch League kind of gets involved in everything from like player contracts to, they micromanage the whole process, and we'll see if this pays off because they're really the only ones doing it to this extent. But I do like their level of involvement because I know that I have the developers backing and they are going to do everything that they can to make this game successful. Now, whether you like the changes or not, is a different topic, right? But you do know that they care, right? I would hope the fan base knows that, man, like Blizzard really cares about this game. They're trying to take out toxicity. They want to be involved and make sure players are getting treated fairly. They're managing the league where we don't run into all the issues that you see in several other esports titles when it comes to types of delays and technical errors. Like it's a proper setup. So I personally like that level of involvement. And if that goes as far as to them looking at my Twitch chat to see if I'm making homophobic or racial slurs, I'm okay with that. Again, like the people that are worried about that, don't give me that free speech nonsense. Like, yes, you can say free speech, but that's, really, you got to be careful of what you say nowadays. And if you're saying something,
and I like to always compare it to like real life examples, right? So think about, because I'm kind of with you. At first, I was like, ooh, I don't like this because this is kind of Big Brother-esque, right? Like, this is very Big Brother's always watching me type of thing. And because it kind of irks me how Blizzard or Overwatch League, however you want to phrase it, really punishes players for being like toxic outside of the game, right? Like if they're just playing and they're streaming and they're being toxic, well, Blizzard will pass down a suspension in Overwatch League for that. And it's like, I'm always back and forth on that.
Professional players, right?
Professional players, right.
Yeah, okay, but that's like any other sport.
Yes,
right?
yes.
If Alex Rodriguez walked out and started yelling racial slurs at a dude on the street. But I'm not even
saying the players are being racial. I'm just talking about, like think about from when XQC was caught like throwing a match and stuff. That's a whole different discussion, though. I don't want to get bogged down on that because I think their punishments never fit the crime. Like one dude will get 4 games, the other one will get 1, and it just doesn't make sense. But that's neither here nor there. My real life example for this, because at first I was part of the crowd that didn't like them censoring or watching chat as much. But then I remembered we live in Dallas. FC Dallas, the soccer team here, used to have, well, they still do. They're big fan sections that sit on each side of the field. And one of the chants involved the B word, and they're like the rowdy fan section, right? So some of their chants had swearing or whatever. And so FC Dallas came down and said, look, new rule of the stadium. If you are caught yelling profanity, we have the right to ask you to leave. And they really came down on it hard. Like Like they weren't, because people were like, okay, whatever, right? You say that all the time. And then the next game, they yelled it and they kicked out a bunch of people for yelling it.
Yeah, good
And
for
to
them.
me, in the world of esports, if you have to draw comparisons, well, isn't Twitch chat pretty much people in the stands? You can't go to a football game and just start yelling profanities and racist stuff towards the players. You're going to get tossed out. So to me, that's the way in my head I'm justifying it, right? I don't think it's Blizzard trying to micromanage their community. I think they're just trying to make it more of a friendlier place. And so I find it very funny that you have on one side of the argument, per our last topic, where people are saying women are discriminated against, this needs to change. Blizzard is like, yeah, okay, we'll change all discrimination. We're going to monitor our chat now. Well, you can't do that. You can't monitor the chat. This is freedom of speech. And it's like, okay, well, what do we want, right? Do we want a healthier, non-toxic community, which everyone always says, right? Overwatch is so toxic. Or do you want, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like there's a balance in there, but people don't really know what they want.
Again, with Blizzard, I think they're doing I think they have the right intentions, right? Everything that they're doing is promoting family friendliness, right? Even when it comes to home and away games, what is the purpose of that? 14, 15-year-old wants to go to the game. Who's going to take them to the game? It's going to be their parents, and they're, same thing with them watching. You go onto Twitch and you open up a stream, Twitch chat automatically pops up, right?
Right.
And if you're seeing that as an adult of like a younger child or something, and you look at Twitch chat, oh my God, it's the most toxic thing in the world, especially if the adult understands half of the stuff that's going on there, and it's just, I personally hate Twitch chat. So
that's what I also don't understand. I don't think I've ever partaked in Twitch chat once. And like, unless it's like a dude with only like 11 viewers or something, and I can actually like talk back and forth. But like, what are you missing out by not being like, if, like you said, the only people worried about this are the people who are probably saying something that they should probably be banned for in game anyways.
They're afraid that you're going to catch me for saying what I'm saying.
Right. So what for the people not saying that stuff, what's the big deal? Like, if you're not doing anything you shouldn't be doing in the first place, then it's just normal life. In fact, maybe it will actually make Twitch chat a little bit more pleasant to watch, even though probably still won't watch it.
And if you have an issue with the Big Brother aspect, okay, don't link it. Don't link it. What do you miss? You're not missing out on anything then, other than drops and the ability to chat. You still get to watch the games. They're not charging you to watch, and so you'll still be able to do that. But I prefer to see more developer involvement. Again, I talk about Counter-Strike or Valve. I wish they were involved to some extent with how some of these league formats were set up, or just something to make it more pleasant for the viewer. Right now, I have a bad Counter-Strike itch because it's such a lull at the moment, right? But when it actually does pick up and it gets going for the rest of the year, it also becomes overwhelming. Like, I don't keep up with half the stuff that's going on just because it becomes too much. So I know that kind of goes on to a different segment of, what Valve could do and all that. But yeah, again, developer involvement, in my opinion, is always going to be a plus.
I wonder what it was like back in the day when, like, I think this ultimately comes down as to people just don't like change. And we've discussed it before, where there is no community that hates feeling like they're getting picked on as much as esports does. But I wonder what it was back in the day, like when NFL changed community rules or something like that, or did anything as far as like the league becoming more involved. Was it kind of viewed the same as like with esports, where it's like you're trying to destroy the game and ruin everything? And you hear that a little bit now in traditional sports, but I just really feel like there are people in esports who just they don't ever look at the big picture, right? They're just looking at it as this little thing where Blizzard wants to monitor our chat, or Riot Gaming wants to do something and it's taking away our freedom, right? Oh, they want to put in franchise. This is always for the worse. And it's like, you could say what you want about Blizzard's recent decisions on how they run things and Activision and all that. That's completely set aside of however dumb you think the company is. they're not making decisions to kill the game.
Yeah, they're looking at it in so many different angles, right? How to keep the game stability there, how to profit from the game. You know, you look at Epic, for example. Epic is another example, I think, of a developer that tries to stay heavily involved. I think they even overdo it to an extent. I think they've hurt themselves by, not setting up some sort of competitive league at this point rather than these random one-off tournaments. So again, the involvement can be good and bad. I think it's generally focused in the right area. It's just like the execution can be off, just like with anything else. But
Yeah. I don't know if we really answered the question, because I think we were both kind of on the side. But I also think there's something to do with that, you could definitely tell that there's a difference from people who are kind of older and established, like you and I, where it's like, we kind of we work full-time jobs outside of this, obviously, and we kind of understand the corporate world as little as we do understand
the
it,
structure,
right?
the
But we
structure
understand
at
the
least,
structure, right? And how sometimes it's like, yeah, no, that's normal. Like, you can't always have a free market of just non-franchising teams or the league just always having their hands off, right? You have to have the business be a little hands-on to have that progression, especially in the world of Overwatch, where Blizzard keeps it so tight-knit, right? There are
so
no
much
outside
invested,
tournaments.
right? The more of an investment you see from the developer, I think, is the more of the involvement you're going to end up seeing, right? So with Blizzard, they're so heavily focused on Overwatch's success right now that I think they only feel comfortable, having the game in its grasp, right? Like, we make all the decisions. We're gonna win or lose based on the decisions we make for this game. On the flip side, again, let's just go back to Valve. Valve's making money head over toe at this point. They're making oodles of money without being involved. So why do they have a need to get more involved, right? Like, their involvement is give us our updates, and then, hey, all you other organizers, your TOs and all those, team owners and tournament organizers, y'all handle all the messy work. And so for them, it works that way. But yeah, I think a company like Blizzard, I mean, we're talking millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that have been now poured into this from, companies or team owners buying
Blizzard
in like they had to.
afford Overwatch League to fail.
No, not with the money people are paying to get into the league.
Let's say tomorrow ESL announced that they're super struggling, right? Valve doesn't have as much in stake. If ESL fails, another league is going to come by and focus with Counter-Strike or whatever. If Overwatch,
or one of the current ones, one of the ones that's there, will just take over.
That's what I'm saying. If Overwatch League fails, then it's donezo. It's game over. There's no way that they're going to be able to take that hit.
The Apex.
No way. So, I don't know. This is kind of a discussion too that I would love to have in our Discord with listeners, as far as different opinions and everything like that. Because, like I said, historically, you, being Anuj, and Brett and myself, I feel like, and maybe at a fault, always kind of side with organizations. I feel like I feel like I rarely side with players or the community. And it's not that I'm like some old man or, that I hate people. It's just I kind of see where the org is coming from.
Yeah, we get why a decision cannot be popular, but we also understand why a decision's being made. Or we try to do our best, right?
I try to look at it from both sides.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I get why this is not a popular decision amongst the community, like as a fan. But then from the business perspective, you're like, well, I also understand why they made the decision they made, right? So whether that comes to players or developers with games, try to look at it both ways. But it is tough for sure. It's not, doesn't always work out in your favor.
Nope. So again, hit us up on our Discord. You can see that, or even on Twitter at The Center Ring. If you have opinions on the matter, for sure, let us know. But I do want to get into this topic with you, Anuj, because we finally have esports. We have competitive gaming back this week, in 2 days, in fact. with the CIS minor and EU minor for the Counter-Strike Katowice major that's coming up here soon. It's been a while. I can't even tell you what the last tournament was.
It was an IEM tournament.
Was it whatever Australis won, right?
Yeah.
Whichever.
Wow. Good guess.
I took
Good
a
guess.
reach.
No,
I
you
took
know,
a reach.
Tournament Australis one. Yeah, that had to be it.
In fact, it's been such an slow esports winter. I found myself playing League of Legends for the first time.
Man, I have so much to say there. That we'll save that for a topic for another day. But
I think it was the first
after
time I played
all
League since
that
Alpha.
trash you guys talked about me playing a little bit of League.
No. I never
Dota
talked
guys.
smack about League. Fortnite, but that's because it's a crappy game. I understand League's appeal. I just was always more of a Dota guy until Dota refuses to work on my computer all of a sudden. But I digress. We'll save that for another topic. Maybe for Assault Mine, as Dota has turned its back on my computer. All right, so in 2 days, so let me set up how they're doing the minors, because I feel like they change every major on how they do minor qualifications and everything. So you have 4 minors: Europe, CIS, which both start on the 16th, so in 2 days. And then next week, starting the 22nd, you have Asia and Americas, I should say, with a South African team. But, we won't worry about that. The top 2 from each minor moves on to the major. And the third from each minor, each group, if you want to just look at it that way, moves on to a play-in game, and the 2 winners from those play-in games go on to the major. So ultimately, you have what, 2, 4, 6, 8 teams making it out of the minors?
No, 3 from each division. So it'd be 12. So you have 2
that's
that
right.
advance.
Well, in my brain, I forget that they changed it to where the majors.
So like 2 teams automatically advance to the next stage. The third team will be a play-in game between third and, who is the next 2 teams up at that point. So 2 people from each of these groups will advance automatically. The next 2 behind them will play for a third place spot to then enter in. So you'll have 3 from each of these make it at this point. And so we thought it'd be kind of fun to maybe go through them briefly here, because there are some big names, at this point still left in the minor.
Are you sure? I'm looking at the minor play. See, this is why we need to discuss this out loud, because they don't make it easy. The third place teams. So you're going to have 4 third place teams, because there's 4 groups. Okay. Mm-hmm. Those third place teams go into a little mini tournament themselves, where 2 teams make it to the major.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
So you get 10 teams that make it through.
Okay.
Because 2.
So I think it's easiest just to pick our top 2.
Yeah.
From each of these, because it's going to be hard based on.
So pretty much, let's do this then, because this is such a headache on how they do this. Like I said, they change it every major too. Let's pick our top 2 teams from each minor, and then we pick our 2 wild card teams. That's really what it is. You have the top 2 and then 2 wild cards is probably the easiest way to explain it, now that we confused all of our listeners on what the hell is going on.
Don't worry, guys. I'm still confused.
Yeah, we won't figure it out until the major starts. We might be wrong anyways. Let's start with the ones coming up, though, here this week. You have the CIS minor. We'll start with that one. You have teams. Namiga.
I knew you were going to butcher it. I knew you were going to mess up the first one. I don't know. I just knew, because I was looking at it right before and I was trying to say it. I knew you were going to mess it up. Yeah, I don't know. Namiga Gaming. We'll go with Namiga Gaming.
Yes. See,
Team
Blizzard
Spirit.
would ban you for that.
Namiga.
Yeah, you're going to get banned in Blizzard chat for that one.
And there goes our stream for the day. Yeah, so Namiga Gaming, Team Spirit, they're well known. Windstrike, they made it last year. Avangar, also, at least relatively well known in the scene. Runtime.gg, Simon Gaming Pro 100, who I think Zeus has some ownership in, if I'm not mistaken. And then Gambit Esports. Those are your 8 teams currently competing in the CIS minors. So if we had to go with, our top 2, who do you got here, Timmy?
Oh boy. this is where I point to, how everyone says like, EU and CIS should have more than just the 4 teams making it, and then I point to the CIS minor.
There are 4 teams in here that are at least relatively competitive on a big scale or big stage, though.
There's 4 teams that all have a chance of upset.
Yeah, upset
I don't know
potential.
if they're necessarily competitive, but they're
not winning at all. But
no, because when you think Gambit, they can upset. Windstrike and Avantgarde have upset, right?
Mm-hmm. Team Spirit as well.
Yeah. They kind of made a push for it last time. I'm gonna go with Windstrike and Avantgarde. I feel like Gambit is a shell of their former self.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in Gambit, especially with the amount of time that they've had to work with this lineup. I just don't think this is not going to be their tournament here. So I would personally, I'm going to go with Team Spirit and Avantgarde. I know Windstrike was the one that made it in last time, but I think that they've also digressed since then. It would have been cool if that would have been like a launching platform for them after making the major, right? And to come back and kind of build off of that. But we all knew that would be hard, but they totally went the other way. And so that was a little disappointing to see immediately after, their major run. But I would go with Spirit and Avantgarde. Couldn't tell you why, just a gut feeling. I think this is probably the least interesting. I don't know. It's probably the second least interesting. I'd say the Asia minor is the most least interesting.
It's the least
group
interesting for this week. They've clearly, the way they split these minors up, there's
Yeah.
one minor is obviously way more interesting than the other, which leads us to the Europe minor. Again, that is this week. Now, this one, you got some big boys. You got Mouse Sports.
Everybody in this one has a chance to win some games.
You have Mouse Sports, Wendigo, Optic, North, Space Soldiers, Ents, Valiance, and Team Vitality. I think Wendigo and Valiance are your 2 kind of teams, right? Those are the ones you look at and you're like, okay, well, that's cool that they made it there, I guess. Team Vitality is my question mark. I want to pick them. I want to pick them, but
you want to pick them.
I just don't.
But you shouldn't.
Exactly.
Money would tell you it's probably not your best.
If I had to make a flashy pick, I would pick them. If my money was on the line, I wouldn't pick them to qualify.
Well, Tim, this is a big esports show, so money is basically on the line right now.
Yeah.
Your picks are locked in.
Sports. Give me Mouse Sports. Boy. And I'll say Mouse Sports and sure, why not? Vitality.
Man, I thought we might have the same ones here.
Zywoo.
Okay, so
I got Zywoo hype. I got Zywoo fever.
Man, Zywoo is so good. He'll be a top 20 player this year. My heart would also want the picks that you have. If I was putting my money on it here, though, I would go with Mouse and North out of this group. I think Valde has been playing really well.
I can't trust him. Can't trust
him. It's tough to trust any of these teams. That's why they're all playing in the minor, right? Except for Mouse, who had a bad run last time around.
Yeah, they've had bad luck.
All of these teams have really not performed to any level of consistency in the last year. Ents made a good run towards the end of the year. North looked a little better. They won a tournament here at the end of the year. Vitality, how long is this considered a trial run? It's kind of been a little bit now. It really hasn't been that short. And in the French scene, this counts as 12 years together. So they really got to show some growth. I think if this fails at this point, you'll see another mix up within the French scene.
Keep in mind too, though, you haven't even seen them play without Happy.
Yeah,
Vitality. I mean, you haven't seen them play without him. So,
and I think the roster change was also an interesting change. Alex was good on LDLC, so I would like to see Ents make it and Vitality make it, but I think I'm going to go with Mouse and North here.
So that
Look
leaves
at
us-
Optic, man. That leaves Optic out of this. We haven't even talked about Optic. And it's like crazy because these guys were making major runs for the past few years, and now it's
almost like,
you know, they have it.
if I had to like over analyze things, it's almost like Optic and North are just complacent, you know? Like they're not really getting any better, but they're not really getting any worse. They have some tournaments where they'll get top 3 and then they'll have the next tournament be bottom 3. I would never bet on any of those, either one of those teams.
Both Denmark teams, right?
North. Yeah, they're full Danish rosters, and apart from Astralis,
a lot of good Danes, man. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they definitely have a pick of the litter. And then you have Astralis, right?
So we both have
Obviously,
Mouse
don't have to
in,
worry
and
about
then that's where the difference is North and Vitality.
All right, and let's go on to the next.
The most riveting one of them yet.
This
the
one
Asia
is
Minor.
on edge of your seat watching. Let me tell you, we will be live in our Discord to watch this one with our viewers because you just can't turn away.
Straight to the picks.
You just can't turn away. So this is getting into the Asia Minor, and the Americas Minor, which start next week on the 22nd. But we got iBuyPower this weekend, so we want to discuss that next week, and we're not going to spend 2 weeks in a row on the minors, so we figured let's just put them all in one. So the Asia Minor, this one's going to be rough. You have Greyhound Gaming, Dick Stacy. You got Renegades, VC Gaming, CyberZen, MVP, Gosu, Beyond Esports, and I don't know how to say it.
Aquas Club.
Is that how you say it? Aquas?
I think so. Aquas.
Either way, I can promise you I will never have to say that team name again after this minor. So, I mean, Greyhound Gaming and Renegades by default, because they're really the only ones I've ever seen.
First of all, if you're CyberZen, are you slightly annoyed that you're not Greater China #1 and that you're Greater China #2? It could be a little frustrating the case. Yeah, I think those are the obvious picks, you know, Greyhound and Renegade. Actually, like, I don't think Greyhound's by all means is like any sort of guarantee. Their roster's also kind of been butchered a little bit. And so I think Renegades is the lock here. I wouldn't be surprised to see an upset come. I'm hoping for that Middle East team of Aquas to come through. That would be kind of cool to see a Middle Eastern team advance. But yeah, I think Renegades is the lock here. You know, you know what? I'll go MVP. Just because Rambo has touched them and blessed them in the past couple of years. So I'll give MVP PK the second pick. But yeah, it's probably going to be Greyhound and Renegades.
If anything, that might be the most interesting minor to watch just because you don't know what's going to happen.
You really have no clue. Yeah, you really have no clue.
And then moving on to the Americas minor, again, starting on the 22nd, same day as Asia. Now, this one actually has some pretty juicy rosters. You have NRG, E United, Team Envy, which is now borrowing Kerrigan, so he will play with them. You got Furia Esports, a Brazilian roster.
Mm-hmm.
You got Team One, which is a Brazilian team, but actually have been performing decently for kind of a not big roster. Bravado Gaming, they're the South African roster. If you've been paying attention, they're the ones who almost weren't making it, but I guess they're making it. That's the last I heard.
So
Fallen did a
Bravado,
charity stream or something.
Fallen and Apex have both done a handful of charity streams. They needed $25,000 or something like that to cover their costs and a lot of their expenses. It's a tough situation for them. They are a South African team that moved here. Obviously, you know, trying to play on South African servers, you're not going to get recognized. Trying to advance in those types of leagues, you have to relocate to either a European or, you know, America or, you know, whatever. They had to make the move, and so in order to stay, they need money at this point. That's basically as easy what it comes down to. So they're the story, I think, in the Americas minor. I think they're going to have so many people just rooting for them because they've gotten so much acknowledgement from people like Fallen, Apex, like just a lot of pros have reached out, other organizations have reached out to help. So think it's pretty cool. I feel a little bad that they have to go through like asking, like there's so many big sponsors and
I
there's
can't
so many big
believe someone didn't
organizations.
step
like,
up. I can't
yeah,
believe
like
it. Of course, the only the only org that I saw really step up was Denial, which it's like, oh gee, the one org that has been
your players first, bro.
right,
You
like
know?
the one org that is still in debt from not paying its previous team wants to pick us up. Oh boy.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
it is
And,
crazy
like,
to me that they
I
haven't
know
been
they're
able
under
to
new
find
ownership,
it easy.
and then like you saw everyone dig up all the dirt on the new owner, like how he had issues paying other teams, and it's just like, give me a break. So we'll see. If it turns out well, I could see them getting sponsored just as a feel good story.
But even now, they're in the minors, like such a big deal, you know. Like you're still
Yeah, but how many teams do you see make the minor and then you never hear from again?
100% true. Yeah.
You have the last two teams on there are Ints and Imperial Esports, both Brazilian squads. Very heavy in Brazil. You have 4 Brazilian squads.
The Brazilian squads have all split themselves, man. Like
yeah,
if they
you have
could
North America and South America.
well, yeah. Well, when I say they've all split themselves, like it used to be what? Remember, it used to be like Luminosity, and then it was who was always known as the second best team over there. I forgot who it was
Immortals?
at the time. Yeah, it was Immortals, right?
Yeah.
Immortals was always the second best team to Luminosity, and you had all the top 10 Brazilian players on those two teams, and now you have like the best Brazilian team, and then you have like 4 other Brazilian teams who've all taken 1 or 2 of the best players, and you kind of hate to see that because it gets splintered up like this. None of these Brazilian teams are going to make a run of any significance, I don't think.
No.
But who do you got as your top 2 coming out of here?
I have NRG and Envy. E United, maybe they might be a wild card pick because you know me, I'm a huge supporter of FNS. I don't think he gets nearly as much credit as he deserves. But give me NRG, and I really do think Envy has been playing well. They survived relegation from ESL. Then they added Kerrigan. That's only going to make them stronger, I think. So I think they are making it, and NRG are my 2 teams.
Yeah, I think NRG is the given. I think if they don't make it, like what a disappointment for that roster, especially when you have
Their whole
2
thing,
players.
right, is they can't show up at LANs, right?
Yeah, and they have like 2 or 3 guys that in any given time they're top 20 players, in Counter-Strike. So I think NRG is the given to make it in. If they didn't, again, big shocker there. Oh man, I'm like torn. Envy, we've just built such a great relationship with them, so now I just almost find myself loving the organization, almost kind of blindly like loving them, right? Like they're
Right.
we know
right.
the kind of people that are involved with that organization and how good they want to be. And at the same time, I'm kind of with you. Like FNS is somebody who I admire in Counter-Strike. I think he's gets a lot of shit, but at the same time sacrifices a lot to help his teammates around him. Nobody likes to IGL. Just remember that. Nobody likes it. Takes away from your gameplay, and he steps up to do it. Cooper, the younger brother of Freakazoid, star talent on that team. So, man, I'm going to side with you here and go with Envy, but purely because of the Kerrigan pickup. I think Kerrigan's going to bring so much confidence to this team, and I'm really hoping he finds a way to put these guys, at least JDM and like Nifty, put them in positions to handle ops, be in the right place, like set this team up because there is talent on this team. We all know this is not really a long-term roster, but enough to probably get out of the minors.
Well, and who knows, right? It didn't start with a long-term. Pending on Kerrigan is at loan. He's not going to stick with the team. This was strictly an opportunity for him to be at the major and help out a team.
Stay relevant, right? And show that what you can do with lower level talent.
Yeah.
And can you advance them through? So, but he'll be going back to EU.
Yep. So I think it'll be interesting. So, as we said before, if we did it properly, you get 2 wild cards. Now, with that being said, the way it plays out is the third place team of Europe and Asia are playing each other. The third place team of CIS and America are playing each other. So pretty much out of Europe and Asia, pick your wild card.
I would go with Vitality. I think Vitality will take a wild card slot.
All right. Actually, I think it could be any team because then they play and then you go to the loser's
Either way,
bracket and whatever.
doesn't matter. That would be
Vitality
my-
is going to be... Well, actually, I picked Vitality to do it. Yeah. Man. Europe's tough, man.
Europe's real tough. There's
You're-
a lot of good teams
Europe's
sitting right
tough.
there.
I guess, you know what? You took North to make it. I'm going to take North to be my wild card, but you can swap them in Vitality.
Yeah.
You can
yeah.
really swap them. And then on the flip side, I think my other wild card, I really don't think CIS is going to have a wild card. I think it's going to be coming from the Americas minor, and I think it's going to be E United.
Yep, and that's why I was torn between Envy and E United, but also knew I had that in my back pocket that whoever I don't select here, I have faith can make it through, in the wild card play-in game. And so yeah, I think E United, and again, E United and Envy, you could flip-flop them either way, but I think whoever doesn't make it as the top 2 will make it out in the wild card.
Make it out a wild card.
Yeah.
So that's it for the minors discussion. Again, CIS and EU start in 2 days this week. Asia and America start next week, and that all filters in to what's going to ramp up to be the major before we know it. And of course, we'll do a full-on major episode and all that coming up. But let's get into some e-news. Not a whole lot's happening. It's just a super slow time for esports. But that doesn't mean it's not coming up. This upcoming weekend, you have the iBuyPower Masters. Let me pull up the teams there because you got some big teams there. You have Astralis, Cloud9, Complexity, FaZe. So right there, you get to see some teams with new rosters. Complexity with nothing. Cloud9 with Zelsis. FaZe with Adren. Liquid.
Come on, you're leaving the biggest one out right now.
Liquid with Stewie.
No. Come on. What's the big story here?
I'm gonna look at it. I'm gonna cheat here. You're gonna have to tell me that. What's bigger than all those that I just mentioned?
Ghost Gaming and Steel returning to the iBuyPower Masters.
Yeah, but that's not the first time. They had Steel. It's the first time he's playing, but he was a commentator once for iBuyPower.
Yeah, commentator doesn't matter. He's playing in the iBuyPower.
But playing in iBuyPower is bigger.
Playing in iBuyPower is bigger. No, this is a good tournament, man. I'm excited for this tournament. There are a lot of good teams, a lot of teams with their new lineups. So this is going to be really, really exciting to watch. I'm excited we get a little preview of, Team Liquid, FaZe. How does Astralis look after the layoff? Complexity has made their roster changes. Cloud9 is doing Cloud9 stuff, So, I am excited for this tournament. There's a lot, I think we have definitely top 3 teams in this tournament. And then you sprinkle in a couple of other, good competitive teams. Makes for some upsets potentially. And then I think we'll hopefully see a Astralis Liquid kind of finals again right now. Love to see Stewie in that setting, so really excited about this tournament.
And then I think that's the weekend after. On January 25th, you have the E-League CSGO Invitational for 2019. Do you remember when E-League came out and everyone was blown away by how they did Counter-Strike, and they had 2 stages set up, so it was quick, and it was on TV, and it was like, wow, this is crazy. E-League is going to take over. Well, now their Invitational has 4 teams.
Yep.
I guess technically they were invited, so it is an invitational. However, 4 teams is not a tournament. It's not.
It's a money-making event. It's like a pay-per-view event.
It really is.
That's what this is. Like
This
it
is
feels like a
E-League to
pay-per-view
still stay
event.
relevant with Counter-Strike.
Hey, look, it's good. I mean, it's fun. What are the 4 teams? Do we know? I'm sure we know.
Yes, that's the other
who are
thing.
they?
If you told me E-League Invitational, it's a Strawless, it's MIBR, it's Liquid and Navi, I'd be like, oh, this is the jug. Like, these are the heavyweights coming to play. But no, it's Cloud9, FaZe, Complexity, and Big. Were
That's
all other
right.
teams
I remember
busy?
seeing this. How much money is on the line for this?
It's a $150,000 prize pool, I believe.
Man, that's
Big. Why Big? That's the one that throws me off.
Complexity doesn't throw you off. I mean, we love
It's
complexity,
local.
but I'm saying
They're local. They're NA team. They're
Okay.
NA team. And keep in mind, this is only like 2 weeks before teams are really going to start traveling. I mean, some teams are already in Europe, warming up for the
boot camping and all that at that time.
yeah.
And not to knock on complexity, it's just you're gonna have a 4-team tournament and you're gonna make this like a premier type tournament for yourself. You know, even Cloud9 is questionable to me. Like, why is Cloud9 in the mix? Did you not call Liquid? Like, did Liquid not get a call?
Cloud9
Is
won
Strawless
the
not get a
E-League
call?
major, though. Don't forget that. The E-League Boston major. They're always going to be invited to E-League stuff, I think. They have that bond.
Yeah,
The bond of a
sure.
champion.
Like,
But I
players
mean,
are
I
not there,
agree with you,
unfortunately.
though.
It's just weird. It's just
this
weird.
is
I
a
don't like
whack
it.
tournament. It is a
Yeah.
whack tournament. Especially, like I said, like, it's weird. Normally, iBuyPower always had the iBuyPower Cup, and that was always like kind of a dinky ragtag NA tournament where
No, that's
Cloud9
like the
or
big boy
Liquid always
tournament here
won.
now.
Now it's the big boys, and then E-League is the one with the spare lineup where it's like 4 teams. Like, what?
Yeah.
So
No, definitely
they
pumped
used
about the iBuyPower
like that
tournament.
used to
Like,
be
you're
like
doing it right.
E-League almost used to be like a mini major. You remember? They used to have like the top 10 teams.
Oh, it felt like the best set. Like, it was really, really cool when it first came out. And whether it's money or they're not seeing the return on the return on their investment, whatever it is, it's definitely taken a hit, and it's like not nearly as an exciting event.
No.
Where like iBuyPowers, not only is their pool bigger in terms of prize pool, they do have more teams, so that probably affects it to a certain extent too. But they're also doing it in Hollywood, which I think is pretty cool. So, anyways, that'll be fun, and
Yep.
unfortunately, we'll follow it up with the E-League after.
We talked about it a little bit last week about the rumors, but it is official. Phelps is going to MIBR, and Tarek is in the inactive spot for that roster. Nothing's going to happen with Tarek for a little bit. I've read that he's pretty much just laying low until after the major. It's too late for him to be at the major with any roster, so
And no good roster is going to make a change until
No,
after the
and
major. So
yeah, he's going to wait. I mean, after the major, it's going to be his time to strike because that's when teams make their moves, and
yeah,
would not be surprised if he ends on Complexity. You got nothing playing for the major. He'll bow out after the major. They'll have an open vacancy. Tarek moves in. I'm also a believer that there is no way you can be a free agent, go to the Complexity office where the Cowboys practice, and not sign a contract.
oh yeah.
Like, if you were a
Well,
free agent player and you go and see that, like, give me a break. You're signing. In Overwatch, quick little notes here. You did have the contenders wrap up. In EU, you had Team Giganti take victory, and in contenders NA, Fusion Academy defeated Atlanta Academy. So take that for what you will. People have their opinion on contenders, just like they do everything with Overwatch. Interesting that Blizzard removed the flex role on the Overwatch League website. So now if you can flex, think of like a Seagull, how he played DPS and tank at times. Now they just got rid of it. Now you're just either a damage or a tank in the eyes of Overwatch League. Doesn't mean you can't do both. It's just another weird thing that Overwatch League is doing. Doesn't really make sense. And I think this starts in just a couple of days. The CWL 2019 Season Pro League Qualifier begins the 16th, same day as the Minors. So that is the 16th to the 20th. This is first big tournament after Vegas, of course, and this is like the big one because it's what gets you into the Pro League for the CWL. That will be entertaining. I am almost, though, too salty about the game to watch.
I'm excited to see
Almost.
like certain groups. Like I want to see Pool A. Seems like it's going to be probably the craziest pool of them. But yeah, like the game has just got me in a
I'm almost salty.
sour mood. Like I was so excited, and I was really excited for like Pro League and all that type of stuff.
I'm going to watch the pros. They're going to make me want to play the game, and then I'm going to go play the game, and it's like, oh. Okay.
Well, now they announced a lot of the stuff for their Pro League in-game, and again, a lot of that stuff was disappointing. Obviously, you want to play it the way the pros are playing it. Well, gentlemen's agreements are in place, guys, so that's not the type of game you will also, be playing.
Yeah. So, I don't know. There was promises ahead, and that's a discussion for a different time. Talking about developers, being involved. Maybe they need to be more involved, especially when your game only has like a 9-month lifespan. You should be pretty involved if you were Treyarch, but
yeah, you think so?
So be it. That was a good show, Anuj.
It was a good show. Miss Brett.
Yeah. Hopefully Brett can get his internet working. He's dealt with that for quite a while. We thought it was working. We thought we got it working, and not the case. So R.I.P. Brett. Stay strong. But that will do it for this episode of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 138 is in the books. I thank you all for listening. Whether you listened to the whole thing or if you skipped around, I love you all the same. Be sure and join our Discord. Our link for that is found on our Twitter, @TheCenterRing. Let us know how we are doing. Let us know if you enjoy the show. If you have topic ideas, please let us know. We love taking listener suggestions or anything like that. Also, sometimes we gotta talk about things like right now, how there was nothing going on. A listener suggestion would have came in pretty handy these last couple of weeks. But it was still fun. We will be back next week. We will talk about some of the results of the minors, the iBuy Power Cup. We have actual esports returning to us. So for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.